Good morning, dear students. I am Vipulkumar N M. I'll be teaching the subject Risk Management and Insurance for this semester. So this is a specialization paper which includes 5 units. And this is the first unit, that is Introduction to Risk Management. And these are the topics which we will be covering in this subject or in this unit. So Introduction to Risk Management, then elements of uncertainty, peril, hazard, then sources of risk and exposure, pure risk and speculative risk, acceptable and non-acceptable risk, static and dynamic risk, then various elements of cost of risk management process, definition, types and various means of managing risk, then limitation of risk management. Okay, we'll start with a question, that is, what do you mean by risk? So in our day-to-day life, we are always using the term risk. So don't take risk, so that involve risk, etc. We are always hearing from our friends, colleagues, everyone. So what actually risk, or what do you mean by risk? So I'll give some of the examples of the term risk that is not related to our subject, but still we are often using this term in our day-to-day conversation. So some of the examples like attending a class without knowing the subject is a risk, and going outside without wearing a mask, that is also a risk. In this situation, that's a risk. And having food without washing your hands, that is also a risk. So these are the terms which we are using in our day-to-day life. These are some of the terms. I'm not saying that this is the term we are always using. So these are some of the terms which we are using in our day-to-day life. But when it comes to business or when it comes to a commerce, then what is risk? That is a question. So here you must understand two concepts with related to this term risk. That is, risk means a possibility of loss or variability of return. These are the two things you must remember: possibility of loss and variability of return. Okay, we'll see in detail what is risk. So the term risk is generally used to refer a situation where the outcome is uncertain and there is a possibility of loss. The loss is random in nature. It occurs by chance and may happen to anybody and any property. It is not intentional. In insurance, the term is also identified with peril, which may cause the loss. So from this explanation, you can see that I have highlighted certain points, which are the features of risk. So from here, the term risk is generally used to refer to a situation. It might be a situation and the outcome is uncertain and there is a possibility of loss and the loss is random in nature and it occurs by chance and may happen to anybody and any property and it is not intentional. So from here, these are the features of a risk. It's a particular situation and uncertainty is always there. Possibility of loss is always there. Then it occurs by chance, not by choice, and it can affect anybody and any property. So these are some of the features of risk, and it is not intentional. That is also one more important point with related to risk. And in insurance industry, the term is also identified with peril, which may cause the loss. So the word peril is used to describe an event such as a fire, flood, earthquake, etc., which could lead to economic loss. The uncertainty about its happening, its frequency, and its severity is referred to as risk. Thus, risk has also been defined as inability to accurately predict the effects of future events. We know that risk is always related to future. Future is always uncertain. We cannot predict the future with certainty. So that is why the term risk emerged. So when we are talking about anything, when we are talking about any future event that is purely uncertain, we cannot guarantee or we cannot say with 100% certainty this particular event will happen. So that is related to the topic of risk management. And here we are using two terms, risk and peril in the insurance industry. And peril is the cause which leads to the loss. That is what peril. Once again, the word peril is used to describe an event such as a fire, flood, earthquake, etc. We know that these are the natural calamities which actually leads to the loss. So that is why it is considered as peril, and this term is often used in insurance industry. So once again, the risk has also been defined as inability to accurately predict the effects of future events. So another three aspects, first one is risk, then peril and hazard. We often use these terms interchangeably, but there is a difference between these three terms. Risk, peril, and hazards are terms used to indicate the possibility of loss and are often used interchangeably. But the insurance industry distinguishes these terms. So in the insurance industry, they have to differentiate these three terms because these three terms we cannot use for the same purpose. We'll see what is risk, what is peril, and what is hazard, how it is different. So risk is simply the possibility of loss. So that is the simplest meaning of risk, possibility of loss. And next is peril. Peril is a cause of loss. In the previous slide, we have seen that peril can be any natural calamity like flood, earthquake, fire, etc. So peril is a cause of loss. And next one is hazard. Hazard is a condition that increases the possibility of loss. So any condition which increases the possibility of loss is considered as hazard. So these are the three terms which are used in insurance industry, and these three terms are different. Risk is the possibility of loss, peril is the cause of loss, and hazard is a condition that increases the possibility of loss. Again, risk is nothing but possibility of loss or any other adverse events that have the ability to interfere with an organization's ability to fulfill its mandate. And risk management offers a lucid and planned approach to recognize risk. It helps in reducing the losses or reducing the impact of loss on an organization. So risk is always there in all business, whether it's a small business, big business, it's a joint stock company or private company, sole proprietorship, any type of business, risk is inevitable, and we need to overcome this problem in the sense risk through various mechanisms. So because of many changes in the business and industry, the risk can be transferred from one person to another, and the risk can be avoided. So that is come under risk management process. So risk is always there in the business, and risk means possibility of loss or variability of return, and we have to manage risk. In certain times we can control certain risk and we cannot control certain risk. If those risks which can be controllable, which can be controlled through proper action, proper decisions, etc. But the uncontrollable risk which we cannot control and which can be avoided in some other situation through proper precautionary measures. So that all we will be discussing in the risk management process and risk management step. So risk management is a process where we can manage the risk through different tools and techniques. That is called risk management process. Then definition of risk. So here we have two definitions, one from Oxford English Dictionary and one from Cambridge Advanced Learners Dictionary. So as per Oxford English Dictionary, the definition I'll be reading. Before that, actually the term risk emerged from the French word that is risque, R-I-S-Q-U-E. From 1655 they are using the term risk, R-I-S-K instead of R-I-S-Q-U-E. And according to Oxford English Dictionary, risk means the possibility of loss, injury, or other adverse or unwelcome circumstances, a chance or situation involved such a possibility. So this is a definition provided by Oxford English Dictionary. And according to Cambridge Advanced Learners Dictionary, risk may be defined as the possibility of something bad happening. So these are the two definitions given by Oxford English Dictionary and Cambridge Advanced Learners Dictionary. Then another term related to risk and insurance industry, that is causa proxima. You might have heard about this term in your uh, previous classes. Anyway, I will explain. So cosa proxima simply means proximate cause. So that is the real meaning of cosa proxima. Actually, it is a Latin term, cosa proxima. So cosa proxima means proximate cause. So it is a rule of law that in action on fire policies, full regard must be had to the cosa proxima. If the proximate cause of the loss is fire, the loss is recoverable. If the cause is not fire but some other cause remotely connected with the fire, it is not recoverable unless specifically provided for. Fire risk do not cover damage by explosion unless the explosion causes actual ignition which spreads into fire. The cause of the fire is immaterial unless it was the deliberate act of the insured. So causa proxima means the nearest cause will be considered for uh, paying the amount of money by the insurance company to the insured. So here, if you are taking a fire insurance policy, if that particular property or the particular premises is, if they have suffered some loss because of some other reason, the fire insurance company will not provide any benefit to that particular person. That is what causa proxima, the nearest cause will be considered. So here we can see one example. Fire risk do not cover damage by explosion unless the explosion cause actual ignition which spread into fire. The cause of the fire is immaterial unless it was the deliberate act of the insured. That is what causa proxima. We will be explaining causa proxima in the coming chapters also. So that is what causa proxima. Then risk exposure, another term related to risk. Risk exposure is a quantified loss potential of business. Risk exposure is usually calculated by multiplying the probability of an incident occurring by its potential losses. So risk exposure means it's a quantified loss of the business or quantified loss potential of a business, and it can be calculated by using a formula by multiplying the probability of the incident occurring by its potential losses. So risk, once again, risk exposure means it's a quantified loss potential of a business and it can be calculated. So next is the difference between risk and hazard. We have already seen what is risk, what is hazard in the previous slide, but still there are some differences. We can see from this diagram, there are three boxes. One box shows the risk and one box shows the hazard. So first risk I'll read. Risk is a potential harm expected in the future. The probability of the particular outcome can be defined as the proportion of the tunes such as proportion of the time such as outcome is observed to occur in an infinite large number of independent events. The probability is measured the range of 0 to 10. For example, climbing a steep hill or swimming in the ocean, etc. So here from the example, we can see the risk involvement and hazard. Hazard can be explained as an existing situation that is likely to cause harm or damage. A situation or any object that adversely affects the surrounding can also be stated as hazard. For example, toxic gases, electricity, etc. So risk is a possibility of loss, whereas hazard is a cause of that particular risk. That is the conclusion. The next is types of risk. So based on the features of risk, it can be classified into many categories, but we will be seeing pure risk and speculative